In today's episode, we dive into the fascinating world of leadership, team dynamics, and personal growth with leadership consultant Angela Kohl. Angela's passion lies in seeing people grow, cultures flourish, and leaders thrive. From her days as a nursing home administrator to leading a child care center, Angela has seen it all. And now she's sharing her leadership expertise with the world through Angela Kohl Development. As a fellow Milligan College Buffalo, Angela and I go way back. With late night Taco Bell runs, TWIRP week adventures, fall formals, unexpected conversations around the cafeteria table, and surprise attempts at throwing newly engaged guys into Buffalo Creek, my wife and I have been dear friends with Angela and Michael since those college years, and I'm excited to talk to her today, right here on the Matt Dan Toddcast podcast. Welcome to the Matt Dan Toddcast podcast. I'm your host, Matt, the guy with 3 first names and a face made for podcasting. But you can call me Matt Dan Todd for short. I am here with Angela Kohl, and man, Angela, it is so exciting to be able to get to talk to you about this. Man, I just love you guys. Just love you and your family, and thank you so much for taking your time, your precious time to talk with me today. Just really glad you're here today.
Thanks, Matt. I have been thrilled and looking forward to this so much, just to be able to talk to you. And you guys are so precious to us, even though we don't get to see each other often. It feels like we pick up right where we left off.
There's
it's been a gift.
There's a few hundred miles in between us, and that's unfortunate, but it is great to be able to reconnect and, like you said, just kind of pick up right where you left off. So I know this answer, but I love beginning these conversations with the same question because I think it's just really, really helpful. So, Angela, if you wouldn't mind, tell us about yourself.
Okay, goodness. I always like to say when I'm training and doing those things first, to just so people aren't distracted the whole time, that this accent comes from Southwest Virginia. So, because I don't really sound like Matt in Indiana, but I have a wonderful husband, Michael. We have 3 children. Gwenna, who is 17, Eli, who's 15, and Ivy Jean, who will be 4 in June. We had a wonderful surprise in our life almost 4 years ago. So we're busy with that. And as we're going to talk about today, I have taken a huge step of faith and started my own business. And it's going well, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity. So,
yeah, well, that's great. Speaking of your accent, I always know when Christy has talked to you on the phone, because for the next day or so, she picks that accent right back up. You
right back up from our Tennessee days.
You're such an influencer on her that you impact the way she talks. So
love it.
It's pretty great.
I tell people that going to Tennessee for college only deepened it.
Yeah,
so it just deepened it inside of me. And my son Eli will say, "Mom, when you get mad, it just it deepens, and you sound more country than ever."
Well, we all love it.
Thank you, Matt.
So this business, this consulting work that you do, Angela Kohl Development, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What led you into doing that?
That's a fabulous question. So just to go back and give some history, I was a nursing home administrator after we graduated, and then did that for a while and just due to the time and all of the things, we wanted to have a family. And so I ended up having the beautiful opportunity to lead the child care center at our church for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And through all of those experiences, I found that I just love to see people developed. I just love to pour in. I love to see cultures developed for teams. I love to see leaders lead better. I love all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started getting an inkling that it was time for me to do something different. And actually, I felt that inkling for about 5 years, which was crazy. But it was one of those, okay, I've got to wait on the Lord. I've got to figure out. So it was a lot of just praying and waiting, praying and waiting. We've all been in those seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And, I knew that my husband had to be in agreement, all of that. And interestingly enough, COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I was supposed to still be there with my team.
Mm.
So that was beautiful. And that, too, the Lord's provision for finances, all of those things we were provided for while having a baby in 2020. So God provides. And then about 1.5 years after Ivy was born, we felt the peace and that it was time to do that.
Mm.
And honestly, I knew I wanted to consult. I had got my certification in the Enneagram. I knew I wanted to do that, but I just didn't want to do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do more than one thing. And so it's turned into that. I'm doing a lot of Enneagram coaching, consulting more with teams. I enjoy that with the teams and leaders, but also just consulting in childcare centers and other businesses with folks and leaders. So it's been great.
Is that, wow. Good for you. Good for you for taking this leap and making it grow, right? And seeing it grow, I guess, is probably a better way to say it. Taking this leap and seeing it grow. I've been proud might not be the right word because I have nothing to do with it, right? But I've been proud to watch you from afar. We've been cheering you on from afar as much as possible. And so we're excited for you.
Thank you, man.
As well.
You guys are awesome.
So
you've always been a cheerleader.
We try. I try. So like, are you doing these virtually, like, or just in person? Like, how does all of this work?
Yes. Yes, all of it.
All of it.
And I always say that's the good that came out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to look for good in that season of life, learning to do these virtual Zooms and learning to be able to do some training. I don't love the trainings on Zoom because I just love to be with the people and being able to interact and, hear and see and touch. But the Zoom allows me to meet with leaders. It allows me to meet with small teams, and that's fabulous. And then also I do it in person. I actually just got back from Pennsylvania last week and went and met with a team and stayed 3 days and just able to just spend time. But it's good because it doesn't limit me to just our area.
Right. That was my next question, or my next realization is this is not just
right.
a local thing. It's regional or even national,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
Right. And so we go to the Nazarene Church here locally, and I got connected with the Nazarene Church up in Pennsylvania and work with their 2 child care centers. Interestingly enough, that church has 2 child care centers and a nursing home underneath their umbrella. God bless them. But it's been a really good thing for me because I can work with all of them or encourage the directors. So
right, you can speak into both of those worlds, right?
That's right.
Wow,
I love it.
So yeah, there's probably some divine leading into that. Correct, right?
I was gonna say we know who's been at work in that, don't we?
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So I'll ask you again at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you now if anyone's interested in working with you, having you come speak or coach or consult. How do they get in contact with you?
Thanks, Matt. You can just reach out at message me on my website at angelakohldevelopment.com, or I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Angela Kohl Development.
Okay. Cool. And I'll make sure those are in our show notes as well. So all I got to do is
Thank you. I would love the opportunity to support other leaders and teams. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be. I can see. I've sat in on several leadership teams before and had consultants come in, and some were not that great, but some were amazing and memorable, and I still remember them 20 years later. And I have no doubt that that's you, that you would be
No,
one
thank you.
that is memorable and making an impact, not just in the immediate future, but in long term as well. So thank you again.
Well, and that's part of why I want to do it. When you're talking about coming into leadership teams, you have had those, all of us have had those times where we're like, okay, we're going to another training or we're going to another this or that. But I think the thing I saw, Matt, is folks jump into a job and they know the part of their job that brings the result. Like, as far as if you're doing nursing, you're going to care for the patient. If you're teaching, you're going to care for the student, all of those things. But often we don't know how to interact with each other. We don't know how to build that culture. As a leader, often, as an example, teachers are made to be administrators or directors, but they've never led all the people.
Right.
They've led a classroom.
Right.
So they need that support. And often when you get into those roles, you're so busy doing the thing that you don't have time for the development. So finding someone that can partner with you is so crucial, and being able to do it well and being able to focus on what you need so you can care well for the others and lead your organization and your people, which are your greatest asset.
Right.
So
part
of my passion.
Do you work with individuals as well, or is it just?
Yes, I sure do. I do the Enneagram coaching one-on-one.
Okay.
But I have found that the other thing that I do more of individually is the leadership coaching.
Okay.
Just that leadership one-on-one. And sometimes it's just talking through all the things they're facing at that moment, facing those challenges together, talking about it, getting another perspective. Leadership is lonely.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be a lonely seat. And so, because you've got to keep confidentialities, you can't share, I mean, all those pieces. But just knowing, I often say, just knowing that you're not crazy about the way you're feeling, having someone support you in that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
You know that in so many of the roles you've had. So that is one thing I just love. I love coming alongside those leaders and then just one-on-one, getting to support them, but also guiding them and coaching them.
Well, that is an incredible ministry and an important ministry that I think has been neglected for a very long time, because that, as you said, leadership can be very lonely, and sometimes just having someone to talk to who understands
right
can make a world of difference. So this is perfect. It's perfect for you. You've been the encourager with things like this as well. And so again, I think not just here to be an advertisement for AngelaKohlDevelopment.com, but I really do think that leaders need people that they can trust and that they can talk to.
They do.
That are outside of the organization.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But in my leadership, where the Enneagram came in, I'll just share with you, Matt, because that kind of leads into it. As a leader, you know, the best part of your job as a leader is to work with people, and the hardest part of your job is working with people.
Yes.
That will forever be true. We'll never remove that. But what I've found is, you know, I had been introduced to the Enneagram. I had used, you know, Strength Finders, love Strength Finders. You know, I'm a fan of Myers-Briggs. I love those tools. But when I personally got introduced to the Enneagram in my leadership, I was having a specifically challenging time with a particular employee who I loved. Mm-hmm. I loved this person, but I didn't quite know how to lead them. Mm-hmm. And when we did the Enneagram, I had light bulbs just going off. I just had light bulbs going off. And I was like, oh. When I discovered their Enneagram number, I was just so relieved to understand where this person was coming from. That first, because I'm a 2, if you know anything about the Enneagram, I'm the helper. I want to fix the thing. I want to help her. I don't want there to be any problem that we can't tackle together, all of that. When I found out this person was a 6, and all that she needed from me was to really offer that structure, be willing to listen to her fears and give her room in that, it was a game changer. It was a stress reliever. It was a relationship builder. It helped me tremendously. So then that's when I started using it on my own team, and then decided to get certified to help other teams.
So I think I'm not versed enough in the Enneagram to really be able to peg other people and say, oh, I know you're not supposed to type them, you're not supposed to label people necessarily, but you can see people's personalities and maybe see, okay, they're probably a 9, they're probably a 6. So I had no idea that you're a 2 because I'm also a 2. And so so what does that tell you about me? Like what is about my role, what my role would be best? Let me rephrase that. What does that tell you about me on a team? Like what would be my strength on a team? And also what would be my weakness on a team as a team?
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm not surprised at all that you're a 2. I think that you and we always want to encourage folks, and that's what you would do on a team. You're a helper. Matt, you have always been that one that everybody wanted to just come to and talk to because you were that listener, you were that supporter, and that's what you would be on a team. You would be the one who saw someone in need and you would go directly and help them. And if anybody that's listening knows Matt, you know that is the truth.
Well,
so we do have blind spots, though, us 2s.
Yeah.
On a team, we sometimes offer help when it's not needed. I always tease like, everybody needs my help. They just don't know it yet.
I don't know what you're talking about at all.
Exactly. The other thing that is a blind spot for a 2 is sometimes being a little fuzzy in their communication because we care so much about how someone feels. We struggle to be direct. We have to practice that. That has to be a boundary. And also from a work perspective on a team, it may be that you put everyone else's needs before yours and not recognize that you have needs or have other things that you have to do and find that balance. So that's just kind of a quick answer. But it's so fascinating because I do know, you and I've talked enough to know that you are a 2 wing 1. And if you know Matt, you are so willing to help. You recognize other people's needs very quickly. You can feel that. Like a type 3 will walk in a room and be able to feel the room, but a type 2 feels the person beside them, feels the next person, wants to make sure that they're included.
Well, in this virtual world that we're in, sometimes the perils of that is that you lose a connection, right? So Angela dropped off there. I know you're talking about some amazing things. But now that we can stop talking about me, because that's where you were going, and I'm assuming as a 2, I should be uncomfortable with that because I was uncomfortable with that. Let's continue talking about Enneagrams, though, in forming a team. In a lot of the trainings that I've done before, we talked about different personality types. Like one was the DISC personalities. I think they even, if I'm thinking correctly, that's the one that sometimes they would line them up with different animals. Like you had the S was more like a dog that's loyal, and the I was like I don't know, some extroverted party animal kind of thing, and a D was like a lion, and of course I'm going out of order here, right? You think I'd start with D for DISC, and then C I think was a beater. I don't remember exact. I just remember dog, S, because I was a high S.
I was going to say, because you're such a D.
Right. That's the first thing everyone thinks of me is D, dominant personality. But in those leadership conferences and things, they talked about an ideal team would have all of those different personality types working together, because they all have strengths, they all have weaknesses, and you're able to rely on each other, just knowing how to, you know, work with someone, knowing their personality, right?
Right.
Is that the same thing with an Enneagram, or is that a completely different beast altogether?
Well, I would say you use it a little bit different,
Okay.
where the disc is, they would typically have you do that in an interview process. I do recommend that, especially in leadership with the Enneagram. However, what you find on teams is, you're not going to have all 9 types all the time. I was in a training yesterday and I was shocked that there were no 4 or 5s or 6s in the room. So, but I was recently at another training and there were tons of 7s in the room. And my joke was, how do you all get anything done? Because those are our like optimistic, adventurous, But interestingly enough, the assistant director who is involved in the hiring is a 7.
Okay.
So you often find that with leaders and how they hire. But I just tell them to be aware.
Okay.
Be aware and make sure you're not getting all 1s, all 9s. You want people that are going to be able to talk to you. You don't want all of one type. But the more important part, and what I train, is you need to know what your team members are so you can communicate better with them. You can understand. For a 2, it's just like this. For a 2, a 5 really can appear standoffish sometimes and not attend into at all, but they're protecting their reserves. But for a 2, we're like, oh, are you mad at me? And so in that environment, I explain to them, just knowing that your coworker or the person that's working with you is a 5, you're going to understand them and you're going to avoid things you don't need to deal with and have misunderstandings. You're going to give them that space. You're not going to think that they need to be encouraged or cheered up or brought out of their space. All of those things just help us work better together and understand one another.
Which is probably important in relationships in general, right? And in communities. And I can definitely see how, let's say if I'm married to a 5, and me being a 2, that it would be important to know when to back off and when to shower with care, when that's your natural bent, right?
Well, I'm a 2, and you know my husband well, but I'm a 2 and I'm married to an 8.
An 8,
which
okay,
are extreme opposites.
okay,
And
okay.
And if anyone knows us listening to this, we're opposites. However, if we would have been given this tool when we were early married, it would have been so helpful. It would have been so helpful to us, because the way that an 8 shows love, and it's not really the vulnerability of the Enneagram shows your motivations, all of those things. Okay. And so it's not really about how they act out their love. It's more about those motivations and how it affects how they communicate it. So an 8 is they want security. They want to protect themselves. They struggle in vulnerability in relationships and emotions, where a 2, they wear all their emotions all over their sleeves and down their arms and to their toes, really, And so understanding that is vital.
Yeah.
I mean, I could speak for an hour or more just on how that's helped us, and even helped me understand my children that are not 2s, correct?
Yeah.
And that they're not just trying not to love this mommy who is a 2, but they just have different motives.
Yeah.
So it's helpful.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is yes.
Well, and it's helpful to know that one size doesn't fit all, right? And we know that.
True.
We know that with people, but we tend to forget that too. And so we want to treat everyone, we want to box them in and treat them the same way. Now, I want to give you another opportunity to share about Enneagram that I've heard over the years that, Enneagram, that's unchristian. I never quite understood that I'm guessing they feel like it's like a branch of astrology, or maybe just, I don't know, some weird voodoo or something they don't really understand, but I've seen it in lists of these, anti-Christian psychological things that
Right.
trends that you see it pop up in churches. And I know you're a
Absolutely.
person of faith and you take this very seriously, your faith very seriously. And you would not be sharing something like Enneagrams if you did not believe that it was contrary to your faith and to a Christ-centered life. So I'm going to let you share about that for a minute, if you wouldn't mind.
Gonna let me speak on that. Well, this is definitely a question that I get, and honestly, something that I appreciate you asking it, is that I had to spend a lot of time in prayer about, because I would be so sad if I thought I ever led anyone or shared anything that pointed them away from Jesus or pointed them in a direction that didn't honor him. That is first and foremost my calling and my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first engaged in the Enneagram, I started seeing this, and you can see anything on the internet. So broccoli is bad for you. You can really see anything. So I was like, oh, wow. So I really started diving in, and there's a couple folks that are coaches, famous consultant coaches that do this Enneagram thing that are believers. And so they have done a lot of research. So it was important to me to dive in and really read their information. A lot of what you're talking about comes from the origins of the Enneagram. And there's beliefs that it comes from an occult and all of that. And then there's studies that say that truly was not the case.
Okay.
It came from writings, but it's been used for centuries. It's been redone. It's been used for centuries. I think the whole name of it doesn't help either. The Enneagram. It sounds like pentagram, and you're like, oh my gosh, what are we getting involved in? But what I have found, Matt, is in researching it, I have found peace that it is okay, because the other thing that it's done for me is helped me to realize it brings me to Jesus.
Mm.
As a two, I don't set boundaries well.
Mm-hmm. But
for me, I know that I need Christ in my life to do that. I need his help. He's my ever-present help. The other thing is it doesn't take away from Christ at all, because, he's my creator, right? We're all created uniquely, and we're all born in sin, and this shows you we have motivations and those kind of things that need us to rely on him. Mm. It also helps build relationships, and there's such truth in it and so much good in it. So I have found a peace in that, and I continue to research. And if I ever found that anything about it was not honoring to the Lord, I would stop immediately.
Yeah.
But I have not found that. And then a lot of churches use it. Our church has allowed me to do things, and I actually got certified for the Enneagram through the lens of the gospel.
Okay.
And how each type serves the Lord differently, has different motivations, which has also helped me tremendously to understand people.
Right. So, sure. And it just would help in general, right? It would help in forming teams. It would help in understanding why people do things. It just in general. And it's not to box someone in. It's not to limit someone. Right? Like you can't do that because you're a two, or there's
and that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
This is absolutely just a tool. Yeah. This is a tool, and I tell folks, the tool is not the transformer. Christ is the transformer. Mm-hmm. Right? He's the one who transforms us. And if I was that are secular, I also explain to them, this is just a tool for your tool belt. This is a tool to grow you and to grow others. And I also say, it's not a sword and it's not a shield. You can't use it to be like, okay, like you just said, I'm a two, I can't help it.
Right.
Or, oh my goodness, look over there, there's such a three. You don't want any of that. It's to do the opposite and to bring us outside of that box, to grow to understand one another better. And isn't that what Christ wants?
Yeah. I think so. That sounds like community, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
That's what we're called into. And it also sounds, again, this is outsider novice talking here, but it doesn't sound unlike learning, the 5 love languages or these other ways to or his needs, her needs, or even men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? Like all of these different things that we talk about. Yes, people are different, and we all handle things differently. We approach things differently. We have a whole mess of experiences and even genetic dispositions to react in certain ways. And so why not understand that and
That's it.
and work with that instead of trying to fight that.
And I appreciate believers. I mean, I get it. We don't want anything that is against Christ. So when you see these alarming things that look like we're dealing with something satanic, they immediately, I mean, if you don't do your research and you don't want to know, you're going to just be like, okay, that's not for me. But I know that the Lord put this before me to understand my team better, because I seek the Lord for help every day. And I know that was from him. I mean, good grief, the Lord used a donkey, I mean, he can use anything.
Right.
So, but I would not, this is not going to become my relationship. This is not going to become my religion, for the lack of a better term. It is a tool.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think that's the important thing to remember, is it's a tool and not the weapon, like you said, or the end all be all and the defining characteristic.
Right.
So, yeah. Man, that was enlightening. I really want to talk to you more about Enneagrams sometime. Maybe not recorded, because that would just display my ignorance to everyone. Because I think all of this is fascinating. I just really haven't dug into it nearly enough to be able to have an informed conversation about it. I would love to have you on some other time, and just dive into Enneagrams more, or just talk to you in general at some other time. It's fascinating to me, even though I really haven't had the time or the opportunity to dig into it very deeply. I'll be honest, when I first heard about it a few years ago, I kind of thought it was a fad. But the more I've heard about it, the more I understand it, and the more it makes sense. Because like we both said, it's a tool, right? And it's in a lot of ways, it's not like a lot of the other tools that we have to understand how people relate, how people can best be encouraged, how to love people better, and how to form, or how to I guess, have more effective teams, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I love to go in and share this information and help teams work better together, eliminate some of the frustrations. Are we going to eliminate all of them? No.
Right.
But if we can find ways and tools to help them work better, because regardless of what your job is, regardless of what your role is, there is stress in it. There are challenges. So if we can just be better equipped, that is my heart and my goal in this journey.
Well, I'm sure you are doing a great job to equip the people you're serving.
Thanks.
You've already done a great job just in the few minutes that we've talked. Just help me understand a little more, and hopefully anyone that's listened will understand a little better as well. Man, Angela, I'm just thankful that you took this time to share with us today. Gives me an excuse to talk to you, and that's always great. Right?
I love it too.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested in talking to you about consulting or any of the other services that you provide, again, would you share your information, how they can get in touch with you?
Oh, I would love to. And thanks for that, Matt. It's angelakohldevelopment.com. Or you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Angela Kohl Development. And I would love to hear from you.
So everyone, give her a call. All 10 listeners. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how many people will listen, but hopefully a lot do, because I think this is an important service that you provide, and a great ministry as well.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Angela. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite listening platform. We'll see you next time. The Matt, Dan, Toddcast podcast is brought to you by me, Matt. Theme song by Paul Uden.